Good morning, happy Friday, everyone. Okay, full stop. In my head, I was trying to figure out how I was going to start this, but I know I would have screwed up how I would have said it, so I'm just like, I'll just do the normal intro. So good again. Good morning, happy Friday, everyone. Let's get to my low, my high, my act of kindness. What is my low? Well, my low is that it's almost noon as of recording this, and only now am I starting this. Yeah, I was still tired, and I still needed to stay in bed, but I always feel so bad when I take this long to get this video done, or any video done. So, my apologies for that. What's my high? What is my high? Well, you know what my high is? I actually know what I'm going to be talking about today. And if you see the title of the YouTube video, you already know what it is. Yeah, so I'll get to this in a minute, but I never really think about how old I am or how long it's been since a certain something happens until it's like posted on, the algorithm For You page or whatever I'm looking at or whatever. But I'll get to that in a minute. And it's my high because not only is it something I want to talk about, but I remember this brought a lot of really great memories for me. But again, I'll get to that in a second. What's my act of kindness? I held the door for someone yesterday. That was my act of kindness. Now then, let's talk about what I was going to talk about. But again, if you're watching this on YouTube, you already see the title of the video. Actually, the title's probably, I think the title's right, like the direction of my hand from. Well, it's from my right to left, but it should be read, left to right from your point of view. If I did that correctly. I probably didn't. Anyway, so, I'm checking on my stuff, email, checking all my usual social media related stuff. And Mega's XLR aired 22 years ago today. Has it really been that long? If you don't know, Mega's XLR was a show that was on Cartoon Network, and I do believe it was on Toonami, in which there is a great war that goes on in the future, and a woman named Kiva, voiced by Wendy Lee, travels to the past, sending a giant mech robot that could have, stopped the war and, fixed everything. Unfortunately, something went wrong, and it gets sent to essentially the modern day, or at least the modern day in the early 2000s. And it's found by these two slackers named Coop and Jamie, who were voiced by Dave DeLuise and the legendary Steve Bloom, respectively. And Coop, fixes up, and it becomes essentially his dream ride. On top of that, the evil force from the future that's trying to stop humanity, the Glorft, who their leader Gorag was voiced by the legendary Clancy Brown, comes from the future to try and stop this from happening. So, a little bit of Terminator, a little bit of a little bit of space show, science fiction. There's anime references, video game references, and man, this show is so good. This show is so good. Man, I love that show. To me, Mega's XLR was a show that came out in a time when I needed it more than I'll ever know. In fact, it was something that I didn't know was missing from my life until I saw it. Because this was 2004. You know, I was well within that really sad part of my life that, don't worry, when we get to December, I'll talk more about it. And there really wasn't much I could do to make myself feel better. And in some respects, it was absolutely true. Nothing could make me feel better. However, that's not to say there weren't any, you know, less bad moments, let's say. That's how depressed I really was. Like, the fact I'm not even going to say that, like, nothing ever made me feel better, this was, like, less sad, that should tell you something. Something as awesome as Mega's XLR just made things less depressing for me. That's how bad it was. But, for all intents and purposes, you know, years later, I love that show. That show is fan-flippin-tastic. And it still holds up, too. I already just gave you the premise. The cast is great. I mean, again, Dave DeLuise, son of Dom DeLuise. The legendary Wendy Lee is Kiva. Steve Bloom is Jamie. Clancy Brown is Gorag. With the also legendary Kevin Michael Richardson as his commander. Shout out to all those people. And it was just such a good show. Oh my gosh. Like, it's a giant robot fighting other giant robots or monsters, or sometimes they do adventures in outer space. And they fight aliens, and oh my god. Not to mention, like, the supporting cast was also great. In fact, one of the best antagonists in the show by far was the intergalactic TV show host, Magnanimous, voiced by the one and only Bruce Campbell. And there was actually, like, episode 2 where Magnanimous came, and basically he puts Mega Coop, who pilots Megas, on a show. Basically, it's like the championship belt sort of show or whatever. But it's Coop. He loves wrestling and all things video games. So, yeah. I mean, pretty much anything you would expect, like, yes, for all intents and purposes, nowadays, you could see a character like, you know, Coop and or Jamie and see them as nothing but slackers who aren't going to amount to anything. And yeah, I can totally see someone making that argument. But you also have to remember, this was a cartoon. It really wasn't meant to do anything more than, you know, allow you to forget about life for a little bit. You know, turn your brain off and just have a little bit of fun. And, I mean, you do have Kiva as, well, in this case, a straight woman, but still, you know, so there was a good dynamic there. You know, how Jamie, like, liked Kiva and stuff like that, and, you know, how Coop will not really care. He just does his own thing, and it's awesome. And, again, this show came out at a time when, like, I needed something to just like I said a second ago, turn off my brain, forget about life for a while. And that's exactly what this show did. I mean, here's the thing. Even back then, you know, and again, this is years before, you know, I really had access to the internet and I could watch whatever I watch on, you know, YouTube and stuff. I pretty much had, like, a set schedule of, like, what shows I liked were about to come on and I could watch them. Granted, they would always be on, you know, during the weekend, of course, because that's the best time to watch shows like this. So, I watch stuff like, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Power Rangers, stuff like that, and I love those shows, and I still look fondly on them to this very day. But I remember Mega's XLR having that effect on me, like, I wasn't bored with what I was watching, but I also needed something new, something different, something that was like a good old slap to the face of just awesomeness. And Mega's XLR was that show. And not to mention, this show is also very, very, very funny. I mean, the fight scenes are great. They bring a little bit of humor. Again, the dynamic between Coop, Jamie, and Kiva always gets a laugh out of me. And any of the stuff they get in. I already mentioned Magnanimous earlier, and Coop always gets it wrong. Magnanimous! Like, he always gets the name wrong. I mean, to be fair, Magnanimous is kind of a big word. Truth be told, I'm not even sure if I'd be able to spell it if I really tried to. And again, they had Bruce Campbell voicing Magnanimous, so that was awesome. And not to mention, the theme song kicked so much ass. This theme song kicked so much ass. Not to mention, and the promos for the commercial. Like, actually, before I get to the promos, here's how good the theme song was. To this very day, I keep the theme song of Mega's XLR as the second greatest TV show opening of all time. Oh yes, number 2 of all time. In case you're wondering, number 1 is actually a tie between Justice League and Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. I mean, yeah, as great as Mega's XLR is, it's DC and Marvel. Of course they're gonna outrank everything else. But man, let me tell you what. Like, there are times I just think about the theme song to Mega's XLR just because it just pops in my head. And I mean that in the best possible way. Gosh, I love that show. And not to mention, the promos for the show were always like, I want to watch it. I'll never forget when they did the promo for season 2 of Mega's XLR. Back when they had Peter Cullen, yes, the voice of Optimus Prime, doing like the narration for the background for like a Toonami. And basically, this promo was a parody of those old I think it was the MasterCard commercials where they'll say like this something costs $100, this something costs like $1,000, but this priceless. Like they basically parodied that, and I'm trying to remember it off the top of my head. It was modifying your car into a giant robot, free. Meeting an alien chick from outer space, free. Using your video game skills to fight evil on a daily basis, free. Saving the world without a clue, priceless. That's what, I remember the ending part. That part was great. Man, Mega's XLR was such a great show. It makes me so mad. Like, here's the thing. It had 2 seasons they ran on Cartoon Network, and the last episode was Mirror Mirror, and it presents a possible scenario because Coop, Gorag, the leader of the Glorf, wind up going into the far future. Well, not far future, but Coop is a little bit older in this future, and after defeating the Glorf, which he eventually does in this future, he becomes corrupt and takes over the world, eventually even abandoning Megas. And it presents an idea of like, one day, all this stuff that Coop does, it could change it and turn him into a completely different person. I mean, granted, they resolve it after the end of this episode, but it does present. That was actually, if Mega's XLR had one flaw, it's the fact, I wish they had maybe 1 or 2 more seasons to really flesh out the idea that, Coop really could be becoming a different person than what he is at the beginning of the show, and it may or may not necessarily be in a good way. And don't get me wrong, Mega's XLR wasn't the only show to do that. Shaolin Showdown, anyone? But that's a topic for another day. But yeah, and what's even sadder is we almost actually got the show back recently. Like a few years ago, they were thinking about bringing Mega's XLR back or possibly rebooting it. But then Warner Brothers got bought out by Warner Brothers merged with Discovery, and so that plan was canceled, which makes me so sad. You know what? Here's the thing. Listen, as sad as it is, I actually still have a little bit of hope that we'll get something one day. Listen, I just talked about this the other day when I talked about Coyote versus Acme. Everybody, Warner Brothers is going to write that off as a tax write-off, but after the day the Earth blew up, a Looney Tunes movie, there was a demand for the Looney Tunes to come back to screen, and, we got it. So if we can get, Acme versus Coyote, I think we'll get Mega's XLR back someday. I would love to see what they do. To my knowledge, the cast is still alive, at least the main cast. Dave DeLuise could still be Coop, Wendy Lee could still be Kiva, Steve Bloom could still be Jamie, Clancy Brown could still be Gorag, Kevin Michael Richardson could be the Glorf Commander. The cast is all still there. They just need something to get off the ground or demand for it. I think we'll get it back someday. I hope we do. And there was actually, I mentioned Bruce Campbell as Meg Adams. There's also a really great supporting cast. I mentioned Peter Cullen, who was Optimus Prime. He voiced a villain in Mega's XLR. Jeff Bennett also voiced a villain. There was actually one episode that parodied both Power Rangers and I think Sailor Moon. Or no, it was both Power Rangers and shoot, what was that? I'm blanking on it. What it is? It parodied that one show with the giant robot lions that formed together to Ultron. It was an Ultron parody. That's what it was. The form Ultron. Yeah, man, this show is great. Sadly, unfortunately, it's one of those shows where, again, if they just had 1, maybe 2 more seasons, it would have been that one meme from the boys, perfect. Down to the last minute detail. It would have been perfect. But you know what? It's still a great show. It is. And I highly recommend anyone who just wants to turn their brain off and have a good time to watch it. I hope you like this. Yeah, I know. I know it came out 22 years ago. I'm 36 years old. Yeah, it may be a little bit weird that I'm talking about a show that came out that long ago. But you know what? That's just how good of a show it is. I hope you like this video. If you like this, right, YouTube channel, follow me on social media. As always, I'm going to help make this video for all you guys who watch it over day. Hopefully you have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Friday. And remember, if you guys want to talk change, we're here to lend you always back. Take care and make good choices. 607 all day, baby.